A very pleasant good morning, good afternoon, and good evening, wherever you are located and whatever your time zone is. Welcome to our Chronicles. This is Rita Gadi together with HOMOBONO ADAZA, who today is wearing white. We sympathize with the family of his secretary and, of course, all those who have departed and gone ahead of us. We had the whole month of November actually dedicated for the memories of those who left way beyond many of the years that we would actually have lived on. But Bono and I will probably be older than Methuselah, as you said, Bono. Anyway, today our program is entitled simply as if, if, kung sakali, so if only we had a better life, if only we could go back to yesterday, when Rachel was still with us, or a couple of days back, if only we did not have any bad omens, if only we had better friends and better enemies in a way, if only we could distinguish really what is good and what is bad and then choose the good instead of what is bad. So a lot of things actually can come out of that word if. But it is also an if we dream. That's exactly how I would introduce our friend and host, co-host as a matter of fact, because he is a perennial optimist. Always he would say, good things will happen. In fact, the book that he's finishing is entitled The New Horizon. So that is if we would have a better life and so forth. So Bono, let's begin with that. If you had another course, not law, what would you have taken up?
Yeah, if I did not take up law, did you say?
Yes, if.
Yeah, if I did not take up law, I would either have been a medical doctor or a pilot in a commercial plane or a graduate of the Philippine Military Academy. And finally, after my senior year, in UP, I wanted to be a Jesuit priest.
You wanted to be a what?
Jesuit priest.
a priest.
Yeah, I wanted to be a priest because I think I could have a better life to tell people to follow the path of Jesus Christ. Work on it.
Maybe that should have been the first course, as a matter of fact, because we have very few people that really care for the soul. So even if we look at the priests, the bishops, now we have 11 cardinals. I think new ones are being appointed. But that is exactly what the Pope has been trying to say. Go back to the community, to the people. Care for their souls, because that's exactly the mission that you have in life. Now, there was once a movie, I think, that was entitled The Second Chance. In other words, the actors and the actresses were asked if you had a second chance. So there was here this billionaire, and he said, if you had a second chance, that is, if I had another life. And that was where you could see that there is the pursuit of other ventures or adventures actually come in. As you said, first you would want to take up the course of medicine. That was my first choice actually, but many things happened in between. And then you wanted to be a pilot, a commercial pilot. Oh my goodness, what a way to see the world, flying your plane and the rest of 100 or 200 passengers with you. And the last of which I think, PMA, in the military academy. My goodness, Bono. We just had the president attending some kind of a graduation of those who have come up with several studies in the military, some training they had, I don't know, I think it was somewhere abroad or here. But anyway, some specialized training. So that's the discipline and, of course, the integrity that we always identify with the members and graduates of the Philippine Military Academy. And the last of this, if you had another choice, you would have wanted to be a bishop priest. Oh my goodness, you would have been a cardinal by now. And if ever you got to the Vatican, maybe you would be one of the contenders to be the Pope. But that's if we had a second chance. If you look at the world today, well, let's limit it. Let's limit the world to, if you look at the place where you live, a condominium in a tall building.
No, no, I am living as of now. I'm renting a place, a condominium somewhere in Metro Manila. No? But if I were to have my choice, I'd like to live beside the sea. Because I like to sail. No? I like to fish. I like to swim. When I was younger in Camiguin, I used to do backstroke for about a kilometer.
Oh, wow.
The Nangasan River to the center of the town. I love the idea of the time. And I went fishing most of the time. Sometimes with my grandfather who loved to catch a lot of fish, and I went with him. So these were the activities that I really wanted. I want to live by the sea. And, you know, Vice President Pelaez, I used to have conversations with him, and his choice would be to live beside the sea or to live in the mountains. And he has a mansion in Mapawa, in Cagayan de Oro City, beautiful one, with a waterfall. So living in the mountains would be very great. No? You overlook, if you are living in Cagayan de Oro, you overlook the city. And if you are living in Camiguin, you look at Cagayan de Oro from a distance and Bohol on the other side. Wonderful experience. But really, you know, if I were to have a second chance, and if I became a graduate of the Philippine Military Academy, I'm afraid that there would have been changes in the country because I'll do a Kongli. You know, Kongli was a colonel Rita in Laos, and he didn't like government in Laos, so he pulled, you know what, and became the leader in Laos. In other countries in the world, also the same things have happened. But well, we lived in a so-called democracy in the Philippines. So if I were to trace my life back here, to be given a chance, second chance, first I would have accepted the offer of Ferdinand Idalin Marcos to,
Indeed. To
to
be
join,
his vice president.
yes, and pursue the new society, the goals of the new society.
Exactly.
He used to tell me, you dream dreams, so do I. Uh,
We
you run,
still do. Yes, we have to. If actually, yeah,
you, and finally he said, no, no, that we are so kind. How I wish I could live back in those years and probably accept the offer and forget for the moment what my father told me. You know, I was so I was a hardliner. I never could bend. No, I should have bent in order to achieve goals. No, that's the first thing I would have done. Then if I didn't join if I joined Marcos, there would have been no coup, Rita.
exactly.
But the cabinet will not allow that. And I'll make decisions even without the permission of the president to quell the coup.
But he listens. He listens to you, Bono, and he listens to a lot of those in the opposition. As a matter of fact, my experience after so many years, decades of covering the office of the president, there were occasions when I could overhear, as a matter of fact, that he would have telephone conversations with members of the opposition, particularly when he is about to issue a presidential decree. Remember, during the period, 11 years of martial law, he would call up members of the opposition. Most of them, actually, if not all of them, were lawyers. Some of them he actually promoted to the Supreme Court after consulting with them for a long time, even though they were in the opposition. But nonetheless, that was how it was. He would have found an ally with you. But then, Bono, that is if. Kung sakali sanang nagkaganon. But that is it. As you said, what we do is, well, you follow a straight line of your life, and that is how it goes. And sometimes, if only I were a doctor of medicine, and if only I were a surgeon, I would have followed the pathway of my father. But as you said, if you had the choice to live where you would have wanted to live, it is by the sea. If I had the choice, I would have wanted to live up in the mountains. The first time I think I was about 7, 8 years old, I was flying solo by myself from Manila to Davao and to get to Kidapawan. They placed a big name on my chest, printed that I was supposed to be delivered to my father when I get to Davao. My name Rita Gadi for Dr. Hill Gadi, who would fetch me in Davao. But the airplanes at the time, Bono, when I was 8 years old, wala pang jet noon. As a
Yeah.
matter of fact, there were propellers. And the seats were made of canvas. Nako. For those who lived during the time, well, I did. So, yung mga upuan sa eroplano, canvas pa yon. And we had so many stopovers. Kasi nga, propeller pa yung mga eroplano. So, we had several islands that we landed in. And I always remember Romblon. Because somehow, I don't know why, but my late grandfather had some business with marble.
I
And
see.
yes, and so we had slabs of marble in the house. Whenever he would be coming from Romblon, and I always associated Romblon with marble. So every time the plane would land in Romblon, I always asked, "Nasaan dito yung marble?" Because I thought that the marbles that we played with, the round ones, also came from the stone that was marble. Anyway, I'm going far away from how it is. But when I saw Kidapawan for the first time, I was 8 years old. And we had very cool weather. It would drizzle in the afternoon if it did not rain. And well, it's a beautiful place. So as you said, there were dreams that we had as far as location is concerned, and I would have wanted to live there if I would have had the chance. I would go back and live in the mountains. Now, you mentioned something about the way things are. And as I said, let's look at the place where we live now. We may not it may not be the place of our dreams, but this is where we live, and we're both in the urban center. Okay? So, if we had to do anything that would possibly make the urban centers better to live in, what would it be?
Uh, that's a very interesting question.
Yes, because you were governor of a
You,
province and you lived in the city also out there in the province.
if
So,
you have the chance and the opportunity to something good for this country, I will follow what I used to say when I was governor of Misamis Oriental. Today, Mindanao, tomorrow, the Philippines. Well, when I was governor of Mindanao, I gave free water to everyone. Nobody had to buy water. When I was governor in my provincial hospital, nobody could die unless God decided otherwise. No, because doctors' service, hospital was free, and medicines was free. And I always built schoolhouses consistent with the plan of the national government because I want everybody to study very well in good circumstances. We could really build the country here where there will be free education, free health services, and houses for everyone. Because in the words of President Bush, this is the richest country in the world. Why in heaven's name is 47% of our people consider themselves poor? We can build modernized armed forces of the Philippines, not to engage in war, but for purposes of national defense. Imagine, as of now, this is the only country in Southeast Asia that doesn't even have a submarine. That's almost impossible. We can really modernize the armed forces of the Philippines in such a matter that will be one of the best armed forces in the world, comparable to Israel and the United States of America. And then here, we should be able to have an agro-industrial economy. Rita, with our money, with our riches, we don't need Filipinos to work abroad. Build factories here, build farms, silos. We can have a better country in this part of the world. These are my dreams, but I keep on saying, if someday, since we are alive, you and I are alive, that's a very big if. We never can tell whether your season and mine will come to pass. Nobody can tell us that it will never come to pass, because as Ecclesiastes put it in the Bible, for everything there is a season.
There
A
is
time
a season
for
indeed.
life,
Yes,
a time to love, a time to hate, a time to plant, and a time to reap, and a time to dream and build a country in reality.
exactly. That
Yeah.
is the if that we should really have in mind, Bono. That's the optimism that
Yeah.
should be part of our lives. Because if we do imagine a better life, if we imagine a better place, if we imagine a better system, that imagination is actually the ideal that we would like to achieve. And as you said, if we would still live for that day, I believe we will, Bono, because if we simplify the way we have to change things, it can be done, as you said. We need a new fundamental law. We need the change of a system of government. No longer this, 320 horse. If I put the shortcut, I don't even feel like calling them House of Representatives because they do not represent us. The horse, without the E at the end. So we can have a better parliament, simplify, and then we can have a better system of government so that the members of the cabinet who get appointed by the president can be taken away by a vote of no confidence. See, so it is not us griping, and if only we could have that. And I think we could if we really have the political will. If that is why uh, that if is so important because that is the premise actually of our dreams. And who was it who said it except this genius of a man who imagined the theory of relativity? Imagination is the food of your soul.
Well, Rita, in the words of Napoleon Bonaparte, without dreamers, men would still be living in caves. And we are dreamers. And the world uh, is the result of the dreams of dreamers. Most of the countries in the world are the resultant effects of people who were called impossible men and women of their time because they mainly thought that their dreams will never come to pass. Well, the dreams came to pass. You know, there was a paraplegic in New York, Rita, who dreamed to be president of the United States of America. On the first day of office, he was in a wheelchair. He built a better America. And the only president of the United States who ended up with 4 terms, was on a wheelchair on the first day of office, was on a wheelchair when he died. Franklin Delano,
Delano, yes.
the
Roosevelt,
New Deal,
yeah.
the United Nations. It's the dream of Franklin Delano Roosevelt. Though some people have misused the dreams and did not pursue correctly the dreams of Franklin Delano Roosevelt in building the United Nations. You know, yes, this is a world of dreamers, the world of dreamers. China is a result of the world of dreamers. Russia, a result of the world of dreamers. Cuba, Angola, uh, Vietnam, so many places in the world are a result of dreamers. And people always say at the beginning that these dreams are impossible dreams. There are no impossible dreams. There are only impossible men.
Indeed. Amen to that, Mono. And that's exactly why we have entitled our program If, because that is the beginning, as I said, it's the premise of our dreams. If we could do this only to have a better kind of life, if we took up another course, perhaps, if we studied harder, if we take up this kind of work so that we can earn more, if we only trained our children in such a way that they will not go haywire, if so, all of that actually is part of that. If and why not? See, as you said, we have to dream. It is important that we look up to something that is better than ourselves. I remember at one time when FPJ lost the candidacy, and his wife, Susan Roses, remember, there was this controversy on that 1 million votes and that 1 million telephone call, etc. and all. And she came up with her own statement and saying, and this, I think, is something that we have to remember, especially for politicians. She accused whoever stole the votes of her husband. She said, hindi mo lang ninakaw ang aming boto. Ninakaw mo rin ang aming panaginip.
Yeah,
That, I think, is classic. You
that's
did
right.
not only steal our votes, you stole our dreams. You know, Bono, I did not quite realize what it meant when she said it at that time. Ninakaw mo ang aming panaginip. How profound. Because she belonged to the celluloid world, as you would call it, the movie world, where everything is by acting, by script. It is surreal or unreal. It is a different world altogether. Why do we go to the movies? Because we are transported into a world that does not, which is not us. Especially if we see beautiful houses, beautiful clothes, beautiful people, we are transported to a dream world, so to speak. And that at least for about an hour and 50 minutes or 2 hours, we are elevated into a realm of fantasy, into a dreamland. And at least for that moment, or for those moments, for those 1.5 hours or 2 hours, we are given respite from the quagmire or for the difficulties or the problems that are surrounding us. So when she said, ninakaw mo rin ng aming panaginip, oh my goodness,
You know,
that is what we should never lose, our dreams.
Rita, in connection with that, initially I was the lawyer of Fernando Poe until four members of the Senate, who were members of the canvassing board, told him that if I continue to be his lawyer, yeah, they will abandon him.
Oh
So
my goodness.
yeah, one time he was telling me, attorney, uh, the members of the Senate think that they can hold me by the nose. And he mentioned one specifically who was my classmate and my roommate at the University of the Philippines. They think they can do that to me. They're wrong because I have dreams of what to do with this country. I know how to build this country on the basis of my dreams. So I think I just can't tell them that they are wrong about their assessment of me. I had long conversations with him for about 2 weeks, until he told me that I can only be his consultant because these four senators would desert him, and they were members of the canvassing board in Congress. You know, we should not be underestimating people. People used to tell me, no, nothing will happen if Fernando Poe gets to be president. By God, in these 2 weeks of conversation with him, even in his house in Antipolo, he has a vacation house in Antipolo. We talked about how he would uh, run the country, how he would choose men and women who would help him build the country. That's why I was really sad, when something happened to him, I I went daily to St. Luke's, hoping and praying that he will live. Well, unfortunately,
Mm.
the Lord then took him away for one reason or another.
But you're so correct about your assessment of Fernando Poe Jr. Bono. My partner, Freddie Abando, covered his campaign. And that's exactly what he said also, in the same manner that you marvel at the fact that FPJ really had something in his mind, a dream for the Filipino people. He knew exactly what has to be done, what exactly we need at that particular time. Not that he was just underestimated, but that is precisely where we could see the fundamentals of life. You see, and that was where he saw from many of his adventures and many of his scripts. As a matter of fact, up to this day, his movies are still being prolonged. We had the series Ang Provinciano, which was also part of his movie career, and then now we have Ang Batang Quiapo, which is in line with the way he thinks and the way he moves and the way he treats the sense of justice and all of this. So, as I've said, sometimes that is exactly what we need. If we could only do this, if we had this kind of an opportunity, if we, well, here we are. If we are going to vote on May or this next year for the 2025 national elections for the horse, and for the Senate, and then of course for the local officials, if we would only choose the right people, then if perhaps we could have a better government, so to speak. So that's the way it goes, Bono. That's why sometimes it is difficult to just say, ay, walang alam yan, or hindi yan bagay. But
Yeah.
who are we actually to determine what is in essence, what is in the heart and soul of a person?
So I keep on telling myself, if we can have a new horizon in this country, because in the case of FM, he had the new society. In our case, we have a new horizon, and we're coming with a book sometime early next year with a new horizon of how to build a country in this part of the world, hoping that some young dreamers reading the book will do what we dream if we cannot do it.
I
I,
think, Bono, yeah, many of our youth actually are slowly discovering how important it is to design the kind of future they would have. Technology has come in, the mobile phone and so many gadgets have already been part of their lives, actually. Their fingers are connected to all of this gadget, so to speak. But that is where we can see that if they know right now exactly how to build the future, then perhaps we could have a better life, as you said, a new horizon. But right now, if we look around the way things are, um, if we can change something a little bit, perhaps let us begin. If there is something we can do to make our barangay better, oh my goodness. I live in a street which is supposed to be, if we had zoning, which is supposed to be residential, but in between houses, in between residences, we have warehouses, we have factories, we have uh, whatever else, big buildings, as a matter of fact, not condominiums where people live, but factories. So you can imagine how it is where you have a small street and you have only a two-way traffic, and then you have one side of the street where you have jeepneys and fire trucks and whatever else is parked, with nobody in the barangay telling them that they should not be parking in such a small street. As a matter of fact, you're not supposed to park in the street. I understand there is a law that you should have a garage before you even think of living in the city or living in a street such as this. San Juan, is well, it was originally San Juan del Monte, San Juan of the Mountains, a mountainous place, hills. It says undulating hills, whatever that undulating word means. And the streets are really small because carretela pa, kalesa pa, kabayo during the Spanish times. Yun lang, you just had horses. You did not have buses. That's what we have now. We have buses parked in the street, my goodness. So that's what I mean. Let us look at the barangay.
So, Rita, one of the reasons where I really write, other than documenting the events of our time, is to be able to inform and maybe able to persuade by advocacy of certain things to happen. And I'm delighted that some of my readers agree with me and say that these are dreams worth pursuing. I think in our own little way, we can also help in building a country. I meet a lot of lawyers here, young lawyers, after I exited from the Batasang Pambansa. Attorney, you're one of the reasons why I became a lawyer because I heard you in the Batasang Pambansa and I like what I heard. So we just continue with what we're doing. God is good.
Yeah, we have a good crop of law of those who passed the bar recently. Very good, a very good number, as a matter of fact. So we have to congratulate all of them. Some of them are coming from the university, the college, where I was, College of Law at San Beda. Now it's San Beda University.
Rita, I'm reassured with the results of the bar examinations because the one who topped the bar now, he graduated from Diliman. And he brought along with him 5 other people. I talked
Yes.
to Haley last month at the University of the Philippines, and I was complaining, what's happening to you guys? You have forgotten the history of this College of Law, this and that. And when I saw the results today, I said, I hope they heard me when I complained about the results of the bar examinations. It's not that I gloat about the results because, frankly, if I were to have my way, I would get rid of the bar examinations and I'll do the Indonesia and the Spanish way.
Which
See,
is
see to it that the law schools will train people. When you fail 25% or 50% of the subject out in the first year, 25%. Next year, next semester, you fail again, 25, you're out. I mean, good law schools. We have too many law schools in the country, meaning we should limit the number of schools. You know what we need here? We are lawyers, but what we really don't need so many lawyers.
per square kilometer, they say. You have
Yeah,
15 of them per square kilometer.
yeah. We need so many other people. When went around Southeast Asia, no, during the time President Magsaysay in Indonesia, I said, "Why are you in education?" Because the problem of this country is illiteracy. That's why we're in education. In Thailand, I remember the name of the member of student council I asked, Ang Sana Chinta Kananda. I said, Ang Sana, why is everybody here in the School of Economics? So, well, the problem of this country, Bon, is the people who are running the government, they are not economists. That's why the economy of the country is in tatters. So we go to economics, helping in building this country. When I came back to the Philippines, said, "Hey guys, why are you in law or in doctor? This is the profession where we can make a lot of money and we get a lot of recognition in our society. So different. So different. It's about time we really reorient our young people to
Yes,
redirect their energies in caring for their fellow countrymen."
yes, exactly. It is what the country needs, but we don't have that kind of have that kind of attitude, nor that mentality, nor that kind of a direction or a policy, as a
Yes,
matter of fact. as you mentioned, like in Thailand, for instance, they make a choice. You either when you get to be 18, you either become a Buddhist monk or you enter the course which will serve the country. So that's the way, as you said, that's how it goes. But speaking of education, can you imagine just recently we have the statistics that came out that 9 out of 10 children at 10 years old cannot yet read. So there really is something that has to be done. And also, alongside that news report that I read, the Department of Education the budget has been sliced by several billions. So we don't know where this is going now that especially we hardly ever make it to the listing of those who can qualify to several of these anyway. We sometimes will make it well in spelling contests or mathematics or science, but that's few and far between. On a general average, it's actually difficult when you look at how our children cannot even read. But I'm not surprised because you talk to the average American likewise, and you just listen to the way they speak. My goodness, their subject does not agree with their predicate. So they have a lot of shortcut. And it ain't done this way. We ain't did it. And so,
Yeah, like the Americans.
yeah. So I don't even know where that ain't coming from. See, so
Many
whatever it is, it's a colloquial way. But I'm not trying to criticize. But I'm not even by comparison. But as I've said, other than just language, of course, history and social sciences are so important. If you were the Secretary of Education, Bono, where will you start?
well, I'll start with kindergarten and elementary, the elementary grades. The first 2 years. No, I'll adapt the system in Japan where first 2 years you teach them reading, writing, and arithmetic, but the main areas of teaching it would be on value formation, values, love of country, and training of character and discipline. I think we should do that. You know, we are making people spend so many years in schools. Now they have lengthened the elementary education and high school education. We should not be doing that. We should just compress the curriculum. Compress the curriculum. You know, I graduated from the Misamis Oriental High School. No? When I went to UP, to my surprise, I really did not have to study. You know why? The curriculum in UP was a review of my curriculum in the high school.
Oh,
Like
that was good.
modern times on the living past. I read that when I was in high school. English, I read that when I was in high school. Poems, I read the same poems when I was in high school. Essays, I read the same essays. Philippine history, I read Philippine history. Spanish, I wrote even in Spanish. So I was telling myself, what's wrong with all this thing? Why review, review, review? No, we should concentrate. If I the secretary of education, concentrate first on the first 3 years because, as you mentioned some time ago, everything comes from what you learn since kindergarten. I think from home or from home. I've read,
Robert Fulghum.
yeah, I've read his book several times, and it's there where values get formed, character, integrity, disciplines get formed. And I validate these ideas based on my own experience. Because what I learned in elementary school has trained me to be what I am today. My only
Yeah,
problem is Rita,
yeah.
and I should have retailored some part of it. Is I'm really the term there is I'm really hard headed. I cannot think with the wind. I should have bent with the wind uh, on a temporary basis, tactical but never strategic. Strategy, no compromise, but on tactical basis, yes, compromise. I could not even compromise on the level of tactics. If if I
Tigas
not,
ulo, as they would say. Tigas ulo. But
yeah,
those are the ifs of our life. You mentioned something about all I need to know I learned in kindergarten.
Yes.
Before kindergarten, we have the home, the family. If we had a choice, then we should keep the family intact. If we had enough jobs and work and self-reliant livelihood for the mother and the father, then they do not have to go abroad to leave their children to fend for themselves. If the family is taken care of in such a way that they can be provided with enough food, which is nutritive, enough medicine, enough care, and then perhaps all of things will fall into place by the time your child enters kindergarten. The family is still the basic unit of our society, and how sad it is that, as I've always mentioned, we just lost a generation in the past where we had this sudden upsurge of people going abroad for any kind of job, and mainly just service, domestic workers, domestic help, and all of this. Before, they were just, you know, those who went abroad were skilled workers, but
You know,
not anybody. So that is what happens. We have lost a generation where the parents are no longer the ones taking care of the children. That is before you even enter kindergarten. So that's the sad part of it. I've always advocated this because every time I read this long list of political parties known as party list, which are supposed to be the marginalized, my goodness, there is not one at all that has taken into consideration the most marginalized sector of our community, of our society, of our nation, and that's the family.
Rita, if the normal member of Congress does not even know how to take care of the marginalized, they have no business being there. That's why I'm one of the opponents of the creation of party list. Creation of party list is really a duplication, an opportunity for rich people to organize so-called marginalized organizations. I mean, take a look at many of the party lists, and the so-called marginalized have people who are rich, very rich, representing the marginalized professionals, etc. And that's why it's about time. You know, in my case, in my book, The New Horizon, limit the number of legislators who know unicameral 39 members only. Why pay for so many people? Why pay for so many people when you can legislate among the best? Among the best. As a matter,
Exactly. And we have so many laws already. Has anybody even tried to index our laws, codify this, so that many of them need to be rescinded?
there are so many
Most
bad
of them
laws,
have to be amended.
so
Now they're
many bad
creating
laws.
other laws. Can you imagine even a law regarding what's this? The whatever you place in your windowsill that may fall on the persons on the sidewalk, that would be a crime, for something like physical injury, etc. Kung magkabukol, physical injury, kung magka-aneurysm yan or whatever, it's even more serious. Whatever it is, as you said, let's limit the members of those who are going to make laws. First, what they should do is check on the laws that are already there and remove those that will have to be removed already.
So
And
many.
then, of course, as you said, the system to be simplified should be parliamentary. During your time, Bono, which is parliamentary, ilan regions ba tayo even at the time? 12 or so? Okay, one region, ilang probinsya yan? Let's say 5, for instance, or 6 at the most. So, 5 times 6, 30. Sabi mo nga, 39 lang. So can you imagine, ang dami-dami. And when the party list was thought of during the time of President Edralin Marcos, that was when we were parliamentary. And that was when he thought, and rightly so at the time, that there were other sectors that could not be represented by the simply being parliamentarian. Kasi iba rin yung system ng voting at the time. So kaya sabi niya, yung party list should be the marginalized. But it was very specifically defined, which was adulterated in several attempts already of what it was. Kaya, ayan, we should abolish that really for good. But as you said, your new horizon may be coming shortly if we would just have the political will to change the fundamental law into a simplified system. Can you imagine what it would be like to just have 39 legislating? Wala na yung mga pork barrel, PDAF, etc., and all of this. That, in fact, has already been decided by the Supreme Court that should no longer be the case, but it's still there. They're able to maneuver how it is. As a matter of fact, they don't even have to go through the COA anymore, Bono. I-certify lang nila kung saan lang ginastos at yun na, absuelto na kung saan man pumunta yung pera ng bayan. Anyway, if, Bono, if we would have a change of government, then we should have a change of the Constitution. Exactly.
Rita, if I could have my way, I'll ask Thomas Jefferson in this country to write the Constitution. We don't need the Constitutional Convention. If it can be done by an American, it can also be done by a Filipino, because the Filipino is not as brilliant as any race in the world. I have attended several conferences, and Filipinos are brilliant than many others.
Oh, yes.
Yeah.
Yeah, and we think in detail. So all we have to do is reduce these details into a general
Yeah.
a general statement, and then make the language also not just easy to read, but at least fluent enough that it could even be poetic. Like we could have a preamble or something, an introduction of the Constitution, which every child should
Yeah.
memorize until he grows up to be in whatever career. And the Constitution must be taught for every course you're taking, so that you know exactly, where your country is going. And then we go back, if we only knew what it means, Bono, to love our country. Ano ba yung love of country na yan? Love for, love of, love with. Karamihan kasi, love with the country. Kasi ano yan yung country nila is related to the pocket. So the country is related to whatever goes into the pockets is what they love. Kaya love with the country. Taong bayan yan Bayan yan nilalagay sa bulsa. What can you put in your pocket, see? So that is where it has to begin, Bono. A long time ago, you remember? I think we were still on a radio station. You and I oftentimes were also my guest. You even suggested at one particular episode that we had to have a national contest. At the time, we were about 100 million lang. Ngayon, 115 na. Well, 100 million Filipinos. Ilan dyan ang nakapag-aral o marunong mag-Ingles o marunong magsulat? So let's say about 70, 80 million. Out of 80 million Filipinos, write a constitution, you'll be given a 10 million peso award or something like that. And that whatever it is you've written will be just checked by perhaps the Supreme Court, constitutionalists, and other other lawyers and doctorate lawyers, whatever you call them, doctors of law, and so forth. So then you have a national contest. You suggested that at one time. You remember?
Yes.
Yeah, because if you can have literary contests for poetry, for novel, for short story, for essay, for drama, in languages. How many languages do we have? 78 languages. Oh, pwede ka magpa-contest. Sige, sulat ng Constitution, kailangan not more than 20 pages or 25 at the most. Simple lang ang pagsulat. Anong gusto mo na sa ligang batas natin? Ilagay mo dyan. O may contest yan, national. May award kayo. Make it 20 million. Make it 30 million. Make it even 50 million. Hindi ganyan kalaki ang gagastosin natin if we hold a convention, because prior to the convention, may election pa for the delegates to that convention, right? So that's about 100 million, even 1 billion pesos. Can you imagine, you just magtabi ka lang ng 30 million award. Sulat kayo ng Constitution, and that's coming from the people, of the people, by the people. Oh, di ba, Bono?
You know what suggested that? About giving a prize to the Filipino who will win in writing the Constitution. Because all the time I've been thinking of writing the Constitution and deciding to win.
Yes, might as well an award for it. Exactly.
But in my book, Rita, which is soon to come out, there is a appendix which is a suggestion of what the Constitution should be.
Ah, very good. Yeah.
Uh, Simple,
Yeah.
in form, broad in scope, and clear in meaning. That's what the
That is very important. Yes. Clear in meaning.
yes, that
Yeah.
even grade school pupil can understand what it means.
Yeah.
Because what I remember in law school is stop legalist, simplify your pleadings that even your client can understand what you know. He was
We are
not
so suffused with a lot of legalists, that is so difficult. We have to memorize all of this. Naku, the rules of court and all of these
ay
things
na,
that we have to go through. Ay, nako, nakakasakit ng ulo, nakakasakit ng fountain pen sa pagsusulat. Nakakalyo na yung daliri mo just to write all of this
uh,
legalese.
about a year ago, I had the shock of my life because there is a decision on a major case which is 600 pages. And the
Ah,
former justice of the
it's a
Supreme
book. My
Six
God, that's a novel, a decision that's already a book.
a decision. Sabi ko, sos Maria Josep. And thereafter, a former Chief Justice of the Supreme Court, whom I know, was dancing that there is a decision of 600 pages.
Oh,
Like,
good grief.
you should read Justice Holmes and Justice Holmes, Justice Malcolm, Justice Brown.
They
Bring
should read Fred Ruiz Castro, the generation of Fred Ruiz Castro. They were so eloquent in their decisions, brief and eloquent. My goodness. May storya pa. Laurel, for instance, may kwento pa. All of this thing about, ano ba yun? Uh, you maabsuelto ka for a crime of passion, something like that. He made a decision on this. There was, I think, 3 lines describing in the middle of the night and the passion was raging inside this man who got his bolo and hit the other man who was fornicating with his wife. Ang ganda ng pagkasulat. My goodness. In
yeah,
3 lines, you had the entire erotica which really aroused the passion of this man. Obfuscation. I'm sorry, that was the word. Yeah. When
them
is there obfuscation? So that the crime of killing somebody is not murder. It's not even homicide. It's just killing it because you're obfuscated. So,
yeah,
ang ganda ng pagkasulat. And that's what. It's not even, I think it was about 3 pages lang kung babasahin mo, but that includes already all the whereas. Fred Ruiz Castro is another eloquent, articulate, and my goodness, the sophistication of his language, not at all legalist, but it is really something that you could memorize. I wish they would ask more questions on that in the bar, because that's what law students should go back to. You should, would also encourage those who are still in the study of law to listen to the lectures of Jerry Spence. He has his own college of law, especially for criminal law, for litigation, out there in his farm, in his ranch, out there in the boondocks, so to speak, where you have all the Wyoming Jackson Hole Mountains as their view. And that is where he taught them. Let your pleading come from the depth of your soul so that you know exactly how to represent the pain of your client. Galing. That's how it should be written. That's how it should, kaya even in the court noon, when Jerry was, at the defense of Mrs. Marcos, he had another lawyer handle all the legalese. And he just came there, went straight to the judge and said, if, Your Honor, you would charge me for contempt, I have here your bio data and I could charge you for something else. Just as straight as that, my goodness. That was the lion of winter, so to speak. Anyway, so Bono, those are the ifs of our lives.
I remember very well Congressman Floro Cosulugo. He was
Yes.
he was also a graduate from UP. And I was one of the lawyers who handled the case of Bing Bong. in the Supreme Court
Ah,
for change of venue from Ilocos to Baguio. And when I arrived in the office that morning, sabi niya, Bono, can you read this pleading? Why, sir? I can't understand it. So I read it also. You know, I also have the same conclusion. It's not what it says. So said, rewrite it. No, sir, I'm going to write it.
write it, exactly, yes.
Tumawa ako.
That's the problem with so much of this legalese. You do not get into the heart of the matter. Sabi nga ni Jerry, it is so easy to make a pleading. That is why it's called the pleading. Make a plea.
Yeah.
You do not try to bamboozle, the other lawyer with your brilliance of words, etc. You plead, you make a plea and let it come from your heart. Can you imagine how his defense was for Imelda? The only crime she committed was to have loved a man until his death and beyond, because that is how she told me how to defend her. Not
Yeah.
I, but the man whose lips are sealed by death. Can you
I,
imagine that? What a lovely statement. A woman who loved this man whose lips are sealed by death. He is the one you are to defend, not I. That was what Imelda told him. My goodness. If only our litigants and those in court would be able to realize how important it is to really get into the heart of the matter. That's the heart of the matter. Sabi nga, remember, a pleading is a plea.
yeah.
That's all it is. Anyway, so if
I, I remember well, when I was still a young lawyer, practicing law in San Oriental, Northern Mindanao, I, I used to write very short demurrer to the evidence, motion to dismiss in one major case about the murder. And, and the witnesses were telling that they were able to see what happened because it was moonlight night. I had to look to the calendar. It was dark that night. So it was demurrer to the evidence. And the judge, who knew very well, also dismissed the case right away. Yeah, he told me, HOMOBONO, this like the case of Abraham Lincoln. He also handled the case of this kind. Yeah, I know that. I know that, Judge. That's why the moral evidence is very short to the point.
exactly. So these are the ifs of our lives, Mono. And
Yeah,
sometimes that is where we premise our dreams.
yeah,
And so when somebody, the wife of FDJ, Susan Roses, said, hindi mo lang ninakaw ang aming boto, ninakaw mo rin ang aming panaginip.
yeah,
But then again, we can say that of the names that are there in our ballot. Read those names carefully. Sino ba ito? Hindi lang nagnakaw ng aming panaginip at ng aming boto. Ninakaw din ang aming pera. Ang
yeah.
pera ng taong bayan.
So,
So, you have three knockows there, my goodness. Strike three, as they say. I have this Christmas lights, which when you blink it once, it will light. You blink it twice, it will sparkle. You blink it three times, it will stop. It will, wala nang ilaw. So, parang sabi ko, tatlong strike. So that's how it is. Tatlong strike ang sa pagboto ninyo. Nakaw ng pag-ibig, nakaw nakaw ng bayan, nakaw ng pagmamahal sa bayan, nakaw ng pera ng bayan, at nakaw sa lahat ng ginagawa para sa bayan. So you see, it's actually a a triangular thing. Be that as it may, as we said, Bono, there are so many dreams that we still have to realize. We will live beyond Methuselah, Bono. The reason we are still together in this, my goodness, kung alam lang po ninyo, 1960s, early 60s, naku po, nag-iingay na kami sa Mindanao ng bagong saligang batas. Hindi na kami napagod simula noon. Yes, patuloy pa rin hanggang ngayon. How long ago has it been? How young was I? Ayaw ko nang sabihin kasi talagang makikita na po ano yung edad ko. 8 decades, okay. For the
Yeah.
past, 7 decades or so, that was exactly our crusade with Bono ADAZA. Magkaroon tayo ng fundamental law that will really reflect our dreams, ang ating mga panaginip.
A new country of our dreams.
The new country of our dreams, yes.
I think we will not be like Stephen Havillana, who wrote the novel without seeing the dawn.
Without seeing the dawn.
We will see the dawn, we'll see the sunrise, and we will see the country develop beautifully until the sunset.
Exactly. So we would not be like Charles Dickens' Two Cities, the Tale of Two Cities, a time of sadness, but we'll have a time of joy. So we look forward to that. And with that, Bono, again, I'd like to offer my sympathies and condolences to the family of Rochelle. We have lost loved ones in our lives. Some are really very intimately close to us. We weep and we grieve, but the grief never dies. It stays. It stays with us and it's there until we too will come to that stage when we can be together with them. So to Raquel's family, Rachel, we offer our prayers and our deepest sympathies. Thank you, Bono, for having joined me today. Your
Thank you,
white, you're wearing the white says it all. Because
Rachel,
white is really the
and
color
Philippines.
of grief and mourning. Maraming salamat po sa inyong lahat, wherever you're located, whatever your time zone is. To Bono ADAZA, my constant unique mind from this part of our world. Thank you very much for having joined us. God bless us all. This has been your Chronicles, and I'm Rita Gadi.